Intending to give the student congratulatory speech, Seleuca hurries to the church where Alexis and Marine are to be married. Upon her arrival, Sylvester and Matthias have a brief conversation about meeting in this type of environment. It is mentioned that the wedding between Alexis and Marine will herald a new era of peace between the two factions. The merging of the factions' crests will result in the formation of the Grand Crest, the Emperor's Holy Seal. This will ultimately allow Atlatan to attain peace. Seleuca, however, detects a chaos converge and attempts to intervene, but is halted by Irvin. Consequently, the Demon Lord is able to manifest in the church and establish a dimensional barrier, confining Matthias and Sylvester within it. They combine their crests to form the Grand Crest, aiming to use it against the Demon Lord, but they find it ineffective and perish. The incident that occurred there later became known as the Great Hall Tragedy. Following this event, Attilan was split into two. Additionally, the peace alliance between the two factions was subsequently fractured, escalating the war efforts. Time goes by, and Irvin transports Seleuca by horse and carriage to the lord she was assigned to, Count Villar. Seleuca expresses her disdain for the lord and his appearance-based treatment of the mages he hires. She also finds Irvin to be quite unusual, as he was a former chamberlain for the Kreische family and now serves her instead. Irvin's reasoning for this is to make amends for his actions toward her during the wedding. At that moment, the carriage is halted by a group of soldiers dispatched by a lord aligned with the alliance. Despite the fact that attacking a mage before her contract commences violates the pact, the soldiers disregard this. In response, Seleuca prepares herself for battle. Just then, a man on horseback named Theo arrives and attempts to intervene with the soldiers, but to no avail. Utilizing his crest and swordsmanship, Theo manages to disperse the soldiers. Now alone, Theo and Seleuca engage in conversation and introduce themselves to one another. When questioned about his crest, Theo states that he earned it by slaying demons, prompting Seleuca to ask what kind of world he hopes to create with it. He responds that his homeland, Sistina, suffers from a high concentration of chaos, which spawns many demons. Additionally, the tyranny of Lord Rossini is another significant issue there. As a result, Theo aims to enhance his crest and return to help his people. Seleuca commends Theo's ambition, but honestly expresses her doubts about his ability to achieve his goal. Instead of pledging loyalty to Rossini to attain lordship, Theo intends to undertake the challenging path of increasing the power of his crest through his own strength. Impressed by this determination, Seleuca agrees to assist Theo. Chanting an enchanted summoning incantation, Seleuca calls forth the chaos beast Tartarus. Confused about Seleuca's reasoning for this, she asserts that if Theo succeeds in defeating it and absorbing its core, he will advance to knight status. Though unsettled by this bold action, Theo consents to battle it, and declares that if he were to perish in combat, he would haunt Seleuca. The mage finds this remark entertaining, and states that she wouldn't want it any other way. The clash subsequently commences between Theo and Tartarus, with the young swordsman initially struggling to defend himself. Nevertheless, in the end, he manages to pierce the beast's heart, slaying it. Following the confrontation, Theo retrieves the Chaos Core from the creature, and his crest transforms into that of a knight. This newly acquired crest will enable him to form a contract with a mage. Seizing the opportunity, Seleuca establishes a contract with Theo. Meanwhile, Lord Mest Medric is criticized by his follower Satyrus in his throne chamber. The criticism concerns the potential repercussions that may arise due to his meddling with a mage en route to forming a contract with their designated lord. However, Lord Mest shows no regard for such matters and commands his retainer to be servile to his wishes, to which Satyrus acquiesces. At that moment, a soldier enters and announces that a lord named Theo and his two companions have arrived and demanded that Mest relinquish his crest and castle. Initially, Mest dismisses this with laughter, but the entrance of Theo, Seleuca, and Irvin into his throne room, along with his retainer Satyrus's betrayal, alters his reaction. Drawing his sword, Mest attempts to attack Seleuca, but Theo intervenes to protect her, and Irvin subdues him by pressing a knife to his throat. Consequently, Mest relinquishes his crest and castle. Later, Mest departs from his previous territory on horseback. With the crest and castle in his possession, Satyrus pledges loyalty to Theo. Seleuca also declares that rather than engaging in negotiations with the local lords, Theo will join the Union. This decision is to help realize his vision, despite his belief that he will die before it comes to fruition. Moreno, David's subordinate, tells him about Theo's purchase of Lord Mest's crest and castle, as well as about his joining the Union. David, overjoyed by this information, prepares to attack Theo, regardless of the lords of Clovis's opinions. Seleuca informs Theo's castle that the 3 towns under his dominion acknowledge him as their new master. The subject of taxes is then addressed, as the previous lord levied high taxes on the communities. Hearing this, Theo feels gloomy about becoming the new lord since he just wanted to be the lord of his little impoverished hamlet. He left the island where his village was located due to the circumstances there. Theo's actions may be construed as abandonment, according to Saluka, and as a result, he will be better equipped to rescue it when he comes back. Saluka merely states that she is a goal-oriented individual, while Theo recognizes the sincerity of the previous statement. Additionally, Theo's excessive virtue would not be conducive to the task at hand. Saluka and Irvin have a discussion about the surrounding lords and who should act first later in her chambers. Irvin thinks Lassic David will be the Lord of Sivas. Since the guy brags about his impressive military strength and just recruited mercenaries to his side, the issue of whether they should hire their own arises. Conversely, Saluka rejects that idea and advises calling a friend instead, while Irvin continues his reconnaissance of the local aristocracy. Irvin consents and departs. Saluka calls her cat familiar Sir Balgary when Irvin is gone. Sir Balgary allows Saluka to pick him up and scratch his ears when he arrives, which is a treat for her. Sir Balgary is taken aback when Saluka asks him to convey a message to Aishela. But when Sir Balgary finishes this assignment, he'll be greeted by a lot of delights when he gets back. After hearing this, Sir Balgary disappears out of sight and agrees to deliver the message. Later that afternoon, Saluka and Theo discuss the reasons behind Saluka's departure from her responsibilities and her decision to sign a treaty with her assigned master. Saluka prefers serving lords with higher ideals, such as the original Lord Leon, to those with shady agendas. As Theo ascends to power, all he needs to do is uphold his moral convictions, and Saluka will always be there for him. Theo agrees without hesitation and states that he will be relying on Saluka, for which the wizard expresses gratitude. David and his troops prepare for their assault on Theo's castle that evening. Saluka and Moreno, David's mage, are acquainted, and David directs Moreno to look after Saluka. David and his 50 soldiers and 5 mercenaries are seen approaching Theo's castle the next morning. Saluka insists that Theo remain in the castle, while she and the newly arrived Aishela handle everything. Saluka is hugged by Aishela when she arrives. Having discovered that Theo is Saluka's lord, he warns him that he will murder him if he does anything unethical to Saluka. The order of events is as follows. Theo is introduced to Sir Balgary, and Aishela selects the weapon she will use in combat. David gives his troops the signal to attack when the invading forces are near enough. Knowing full well that the invading forces' mage has performed an invisibility spell in order to conduct reconnaissance. Irvin will take the right flank, Aishela the center, and Saluka the right flank. Saluka, on the other hand, uses a thunder spell to knock the soldiers out after capturing them in a mystical barrier made of dirt. Morena then uses his magic to give Saluka a gentle strike. By compelling her to surrender, Moreno, who is revealing himself to his former junior, intends to use her as leverage in the fight by having her give up, and then use his sword to strike Saluka. With her abjuration magic, she defends herself in turn. On Aishela's side, she compels her adversaries to fall back by using her kiss to capture Peter, the group's commander. Peter next attempts to hold Aishela back and martyrs himself by ordering his men to murder both of them. Peter and his army are compelled to retreat by this strategy, which infuriates Peter and piques Aishela's curiosity in him. David concentrates on Irvin, who easily defeats the soldiers on his side and has his captain Gluck engage Irvin. Gluck instantaneously turns his skin into steel-like armor, preventing Ivrine from using his blades against him. Irvin therefore throws a knife at one of his most exposed areas, his right eye. Switching back to the battle between Morena and Saluka, both of whom are clearly exhausted, Theo takes Saluka's place as Morena's opponent when he arrives on the scene. The two are evenly matched in battle for a short period until Theo strikes Morena's left cheek. Theodore interrupts Irvin and David as they are about to confront each other elsewhere, telling them that he has taken his mage prisoner. As a result of this, David gives up. David promises Theo allegiance that evening in the hopes that one day he would rule over the area. Theo accepts this and elevates his crest to the rank of Baron. Priscilla Farnese, an emissary from the Order of the Crest, and her companions travel to Theo's castle in an attempt to support his cause. Due to the rumor that they were taking crests from lords, Saluka attempted to persuade Theo not to let the tourists join his side. But Saluka is irritated by the fact that Theo continues to let them serve him. David brags to Theo and Saluka at the dinner table about how the local lords either surrendered or joined Theo's cause. Moreno points out that persuading Lord Neiman was a huge accomplishment. Given their achievements thus far, Western Sivas is now theirs, and it's not unreasonable to think that Theo might one day be king. Saluka corrects David on that opinion and clarifies Theo's actual intention of establishing dominance over a location under the Union. That would damage his reputation with the Union given the stakes involved in this endeavor. As a result, he will switch Alliance's side to advance his agenda. Theo was not informed of this strategy until it was more feasible. Additionally, Theo now acquires the surname Cornaro from Seluca because he is a baron. It's the same last name as a hero from Sistina, who brought the demon lands under control and united the island. Before completing his task, though, he was betrayed and murdered by the Rossinis. Since the moniker is linked to a blemish in the history of the Rossini family, Theo consents to adopt it. After all of that was worked out, Seluca had Morena bargain with Viscount Naval, the king of Sevis. The goal of the discussion is for the king to acknowledge the autonomy of Lord Theo's territory. Seluca says she has faith in him, even if Morena acknowledges how delicate this negotiation is. Later, Seluca speaks with Sartoris, who informs her that the king of Clovis will acknowledge Theo's independence, provided he doesn't enter the domains of the king of Clovis. Seluca expresses gratitude to Sartoris for his efforts, and Sartoris responds by bringing up the rumor that Theo is under her control. Seluca is worried by the rumor, and she subsequently talks with Theo outside his chamber. Irvin pops out of the shadows and informs the couple that a chaos hazard has occurred close to the castle before they can speak. From the blacksmith on the location of the chaos hazard, it is heard that the coal there detonated, injuring a worker's back with chaos. A salamander chaos beast shows up as Theo attempts to extinguish the fire, and Seluca takes care of the sick guy. Seluca has Aishela handle the situation because Theo attempts to strike it but is unable to inflict any harm. With the salamander now concentrating on Aishela, Seluca directs Theo and Irvin to prioritize the evacuation of the population. Priscilla steps in for Silcula and uses her magic to heal the afflicted person. Therefore, Seluca employs her magic to extract water from the nearby well in order to kill the salamander. But the resulting explosion of its body causes collateral harm to the settlement. Then, to shield Priscilla and the victim from the blast, Seluca creates a barrier, while Theo assists her in warding off the explosion. Seluca awakens in her chamber the day following the incident in the town devastated by the salamander, with Aishela sitting by her bedside. Seluca immediately rushes to Theo's side when she wakes up, where he is seen conversing with two other locals. Seluca cares for Theo's injuries from the previous night. Seluca begs for pardon for her behavior that evening and thanks him for keeping her safe as she does. Theo then states that he heard that Sartoris negotiated with Clovis effectively. Then, Seluca adds that he had criticized her for disrespecting his emotions. However, Theo still has respect for her and is grateful for everything she has done. Additionally, Theo says he'll keep depending on her in the future. Seluca says that in the future, they will have to deal with the Alliance, which is good news. Obest Melites, Seluca's mentor, will be the subject of the inquiry. Later that day, Moreno comes back from his discussions with the Viscount and tells him that they were a total disaster. Since all the territory belongs to him, it seems that the issues will be resolved on the battlefield. They waste no time in asking the nearby allied lords for help in preparation for the next conflict. David's estimations, their chances of winning the fight are minimal. Theo, though, is amused by his notion of breaking through enemy lines in order to give his troops time to flee if the battle shifts against them. In the event that it comes down to it, Lord Naaman also expresses his willingness to assist him. The miners from the local town they rescued from the salamander come to help as the night approaches, but there is still no assistance from the local lords. Theo is chased after by Seluca to allow them to fight on their side, even if he is morally opposed to their assistance. Thus, Theo utilizes his crest to establish what is known as a Patriot's flag, which identifies all of his allies with his symbol. The conflict begins the following day, and Theo's forces swiftly gain the advantage over their opponent. The Free Lord's army also joins the battle midway through on Theo's agreement, which gives their assault additional strength. They were devoted to Theo because they discovered that the King of Savas had ulterior motives for wanting to conquer the Lord's crests for himself. The King of Savas flees after suffering a stunning defeat, promising retribution for the humiliation he endured on the battlefield. Theo is now formally declared the victor of the struggle as a result of the king's withdrawal. Seluca ultimately serves as an envoy to Marina Chrysia, where she works to establish an alliance with her party. Seluca departs after Marine states that she will think about it.